Welcome back, it's Relics and Tens from C9 Valorant, and today we're going to be doing a guide on Split on how to play Raze and Sage together. The reason I think Sage and Raze are so strong in combination is because all of Raze's abilities do damage, and Sage is one of the premier sentinels in terms of like defending and delaying hits onto sites and parts of the map. Something you can do is if you want to punish people going for aggressive early picks at middle, a lot of the time you'll see oppers will peek this corner, or people will just wide swing into the corner back there of Ramen or Market, whatever you might call it. So you can have Sage do an early slow off the barriers at the beginning of the round, and then you can be sitting here as Raze, and then as soon as the barriers go down, Sage would toss the slow out. That guy wouldn't be there yet. The slow would go down, and then you would nade deep and Raze. And a lot of the time what happens when you do this stuff early in the round is people are already committing to their play. When you're sitting here at the barrier, as soon as that barrier goes down, you're committing to come peek mid or to do this really early peek. So you just get caught in the middle of the slow, and a lot of the time even if you wanted to react, unless you're playing Jet and you can dash away, it'll be a free kill to the utility.
With the Raze and Sage at middle, what I can actually do is I can wall close middle, and the Raze can actually throw a Roomba over this tiny little box right here. If the Roomba spots anybody close, I can slow close and the Raze can nade close. Or if the Roomba spots something far, I can just toss a slow far, and then the Sage, or the Raze can nade far. If I'm slowing, then he's gonna nade, so if enemies are in it, they can't get out.
So let's say a little bit later into the round, you've already used a Sage wall and a slow, and she has one slow, and you guys are playing separate like this. Now, normally, if you were to get smoked out here by a Brimstone or an Omen, the best you can do is sort of spam the smoke if your teammate makes contact, maybe if you're an agent with abilities. But as Raze, your abilities create so much pressure that he can spot and slow as soon as he sees someone. And as soon as he spots them trying to do a heaven split, even without seeing anything, I can double blast pad the walk up and deal a bunch of damage, knock them around. If I still have my nade, I can nade right there, I can Roomba right through the smoke. Like, all of these things creates a lot of pressure for the enemies that are coming up, where if they're like peeking heaven, let's say, and I boombot through the smoke, like they have to destroy it. It takes their attention away, it allows your teammate to peek.
So, for the most part, when you're playing the Raze and Sage, you actually want to be playing Male, because Male, you're able to help both mid and B. And for B, it's very common that enemies will do the wall strat, where they wall the front of B right here, and they run out. Whereas, like, if you're playing the Raze and Sage, you can actually use your utility together. So I can, like, slow off this wall, and the Raze could toss a nade over the wall to kill anybody running up.
So we could do the slow and the nade onto sight from heaven, and then I could drop down, and then, as Raze, I could go over the wall with the blast pack, I could just break the wall. And if the Sage slow is down while I break the wall, the people that are pushing up onto the site are caught in the slow, and then they're now fighting someone behind them when they didn't expect to have to contest it that early, because you can break walls so quickly as Raze.
When you're towards A, you're able to combine your utility with an aggressive push. So I'm able to slow, and the slow will land all of a lobby, and the Raze can actually nade over, and this will do a lot of damage and might even kill some opponents.
If you're playing passive on defense at either site, running into like a Raze and a Sage that still have abilities left is a nightmare as offense. If you try to do any sort of fast push, if you're doing an A rush and a Sage slow drops at your feet and then there's a Raze nade along with it, it normally cancels the hit altogether because people are frantically trying to get out of it, but it doesn't mean you can't use it aggressively like we just showed. Imagine if we were both playing mid and then our teammate at A was commenting that there's a heavy A push coming and we wanted to rotate to assist. You could probably do something like this. So he would just cross ropes because it's a faster rotate than going through spawn. Normally, like, obviously if you're already in ropes, then you're closer. So if we've lost control of all of ramp and everything, and we think that they're coming into the site, the Sage can just straight up wall heaven, which cuts off the whole run-in, obviously, without them breaking it, and then immediately could go and try to slow the ramp. And then along with Raze, I could combo a nade. If they're already farther past, I can just throw blast packs. And if you're running onto a site and all of this is landing at you, not only are you already fighting the one guy that's on the site defending, you're now fighting two rotators, and one of which is just doing a ton of damage with abilities. So Sage and Raze can work together to take map control on offense and to basically scout sites. You can use the Roomba to help identify where people are. You know, if you're not sure if there's somebody playing close left, you could throw one like this. And the big usefulness out of that is that if someone is hiding on a spot on site, like let's say we weren't sure if they were back left behind the wood, right? So you can go through a Roomba out, and then obviously if they start shooting it or, you know, something like that, then you would know that there's a guy there, and you could combo the Sage Slow with the Raze nade. And if it doesn't kill them, they're certainly going to be very low. Like, unless you're playing someone like Jet where you can dash out of the slow, you're in big trouble if a nade lands on you along with the Sage Slow. You know, you can go do a Roomba as Raze to scout out a good part of the site, and then your Sage can walk up and can get ready to wall, and then as soon as you're ready to hit the site with all of your team, the Sage walls. You can choose to nade default, or you can nade back site, and all of this just gives your team space, gives your team cover to push up. The nade creates pressure, the Roomba's chasing the enemy or scouting them out. So this is like a pretty common way for teams, especially in matchmaking, to take B on split.
So when we're going out towards B, if I didn't use my wall for the right here, I could actually, like, the Raze could get close spawn, and I can just wall the Raze up, and she can jump on top of this tall box and get towards heaven. And from this position, I'm able to support the Raze with my slows. So if they hear that they're coming up heaven, I can slow off this wall right here, and just like support the Raze as much as I can, and make it easier for the Raze to get kills.
And a big advantage of playing Raze is even when you're falling back from positions, you can still be dangerous and do damage. So, you know, let's say you got up here and like you peeked and took a fight, but then you saw 3 people and you didn't want to stay. You know, I can drop down and I can just throw these like blast packs to prevent people from chasing me. If I still have a nade, or if I got some kills and refresh the nade, I have a nade for heaven.
When we're towards middle, we're able to start the Sage at market and the Raze at sewer, and with the Sage right here, you can bounce a slow off this wall to make it land in mail, and then the Raze can just nade inside, and anybody stuck inside the slow will die 100%.
You know, let's say you came mid and we naded and slowed ropes or something, and then our Brimstone or our Omen smoked somewhere here for us, and we push the enemies back to heaven. You can do stuff as Raze where your team can get ready to go be splitting A, but I can come up here and throw my little Roomba. Oh, like even if, you know, it locks onto someone and they shoot it, I can throw blast pads while I'm sitting in the smoke without even knowing where they are, just knowing the approximate area, and I can be causing like damage and sort of disrupting the enemy team's comms and stuff, them thinking that we're trying to go into heaven because the Raze Roomba just went there. Meanwhile, my whole team is splitting A. So you can even choose not to use Sage Walls and just use Raze's utility instead to push people back and make them play defensive.
So when you're working towards A, you want to make sure that you actually have a smoke character with you. So whether that be an Omen, a Brimstone, or even a Viper, just because A is a lot easier to get picked by an op. So you definitely want smokes to obscure the vision from the ops. Most of the time, you want the heaven angle smoked or the screen smoked. So they'll put down the smokes, and then when I'm playing Sage, I can, for example, just slow like heaven, and he can Roomba up A, and then wherever we see like contacts from the Roomba, I can like slow under heaven, or I can slow elbow, and he can like nade, or like if he wants to nade into heaven, I can slow into heaven. If he wants to nade into screens, I can slow screens, and afterwards I'm gonna push up, and I'm gonna try to wall just screens like this.
Now, obviously, like a lot of the time, you're not just straight up execing the site. You need to get some control first. So maybe you'd have your Brimstone smoke the A main, so you can't be picked, you know, by an opper or anyone playing close. And then you can just go contest the ramp and go up with your Boombot and Sage. There are some set nades and stuff you can throw here. Obviously, you can do the same, and you can combo this with a Sage Slow just like you would any other nade, but there's stuff you can do to make people wary of peeking early because they don't want to take the nade damage. And then if that Brimstone smoke was still up, you know, we would peek with the nade, we could walk across, we could come up here. And this is just like gaining space and control for your team, you know. Then I could Boombot. And it's pretty much like common practice where if your Boombot locks onto someone, you immediately swing because like you're under the impression that they're going to need to shoot it. I've not seen many people do it, but I guess you could Sage Wall off of ropes if you wanted to. And then we could just like push heavy to spawn. Like he could wall like that. I could nade CT. and we could take all of heaven and like split the A site like this.
So when you're playing, like when you're gonna plant towards A, I would definitely suggest as Sage walling in front right here and planting in this corner. And what the Raze is able to do is the Raze is able to play ramp, and you can wrap around and play the heaven for the post plant. Because it's planted for you, the Raze will be able to play the bomb really nicely with her utility. So you could boom bot to see if they're on it, or you can use your blast packs for like to blast them off with a bomb, or peek with your nades. So you can play around all of Raze's abilities in that post plant position, and it's really strong for winning the clutch.
Just remember that both on offense and defense, you do want to mix up how you're playing. You don't want to do the same thing every round and become predictable. You don't want to play just passive or just aggressive. You need to learn to mix both styles of play into your game, and that's where you'll find the most success. Keep that in mind. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what other agent guides and tutorials you guys would like to see.